Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Transmissions of the Higher Self. And in this episode, we're going to be looking into the topic of the worlds of the disembodied. When you look at loved ones who have left the physical body, where you feel alone, you feel empty, because you feel that their presence is no longer with you, that they have completely left this physical world and everything that represents your precious moment with them is gone. Well, that is not the case. Remember that every single one of you in your truest nature is spirit. And that when you leave this physical body, what happens? Where do you go? What takes place? What remains of yourself? To start off with the last question, everything remains. You do not lose yourself as soon as you leave the physical body. You would look at it no more differently than how you go to sleep at night, where you are completely in forgetfulness that you have a physical body. You completely forget about your personality in this physical body, in this physical world, and you are exploring different forms of dimensions in other bodies, in other personas, in other characteristics. While it is really no more different than what takes place when a loved one leaves their body and now starts to participate in the worlds of the disembodied. From their perspective, there is still life. From their perspective, there still is reality. But reality is always forged through the nature of thoughts. In this reality, everything around you is forged through the nature of thought. The people in your life, the house, the shelter that you live in, everything that represents your physical body, all of its characteristics, the work, the career, the finances, your ability to travel, all of your possessions, everything here. It's all just a matter of bundles of thoughts. Well, it's the exact same thing when you leave the physical body. You enter different worlds. And many of those worlds, specifically for certain people who are unaware of who they really are, they continue on different dimensional Earths, known as the lower astral or the psychic plane, quite commonly to those who are ignorant of themselves. They still create some type of rendition relating to the life that they have been familiar with. For example, if they have been cheated out of themselves, if they feel that they've been manipulated, if they feel like they're playing a blame game, while they're still creating instances of that in their own way of dimensional understanding. That life, that instance still continues. Whereas those who are loving, compassionate, empowering, serving others will again go into dimensions that reflect those instances. They also have the opportunity to move up into higher planes, looking into what is commonly termed as the higher astral plane, where there is heavenly realms, realms that appear very heavenly, that appear very beautiful, where there is a sweet music, sweet melody in the air, where the people all around you feel like angels, where the vibrancy of your reality exists in a much more luminous state of color that cannot even be perceived through your physical body's senses. Where you can actually smell colors, where you could actually hear colors, where you can taste and touch and see colors. It moves into such a higher, breathtaking view. But that again still does not represent the idea of the higher state, the higher way that moves past the mind. And there are those who are the masters, the teachers, the gurus, as it were, who are able to transcend the mind altogether, and their world is the world of love. The essence of love itself. Their world is the essence of life, the essence of life itself. Their world is the essence of the soul itself. Their essence is the essence of spirit force that has no picture. It has no image. It has nothing that can be perceived. It just is. And so these are an example of many of the bands that represent the disembodied worlds. But when we look at the disembodied worlds here, quite commonly, we look at the lower astral, the higher astral, the causal. This is what represents the domains of the mind. But when I am talking about masters, when I'm talking about teachers, when I'm talking about great gurus who are one with God, they go completely beyond the mind. And they are the epitome of that love, of that life, of the soul, of the spirit. And it cannot be fathomed what they experience because there's no objectness. There's no object, there's no image, there's no picture, there's no perception that can be demonstrated through language that tells the bliss and expansion that they are in. But quite commonly, the majority of the people on the earth, when they leave their physical body, they are going into these realms that are recreated very similarly to the earth plane. It all is just about how they live their life. It's all about how they have conducted themselves, how they have formed relationships with others, because they will meet similar people like that. And based on their relationships like that will continue. There are even people that don't even realize that they're dead. They don't even know that their physical body has actually passed away. And they're still living the life. It's a duplicate experience. But they realize that when they try to talk to their loved ones cannot even perceive them. And it may take some time before they actually realize that they have died. These are all just examples. As there are approximately 8 billion people on the earth, there are 8 billion different subjective perspectives relating to life beyond physicality. There is no such thing as an afterlife. That would make life limited. There is no such thing as feeling that you are separate of yourself and you will just disappear after you leave your physical body, after it perishes. No, you will always be you because you are not the body and you are not the mind. You are spirit. You are consciousness. You are awareness. That's who you really are. Yes, there are all different types of planes that different beings can explore. From again, replicated earths, duplicate earths, spiritual communities in different dimensions, spiritual cities, cities that complement the idea of the ancient past or even the grand future, where you can go deeply into the past and live indigenously, where you can go deeply into the future and look at all technology on a much more advanced futuristic level that you can therefore experience. There are those in that sense who are able to do this, but in order for that to happen, the ignorance within themselves needs to thin. So what you are expanding is not consciousness. What you are expanding is realization. Realization is what's enabling you to see the big picture. When you realize who you are, when you recognize who and what you truly are, not based on intellect or analysis or characteristics or behaviors or anything of that nature, that's all mind. But what I am talking about here is when you recognize yourself to be the infinite. When you recognize yourself to be spirit, when you recognize yourself to be awareness, when you recognize yourself to be consciousness, to be God, to be the self. That's where everything's available to you. You can explore anything you want. You can explore any dimension you want. So many of you talk about fourth density or fifth dimension, like that's all there is. You are looking at a very tiny crumb compared to a vast universe that you still cannot even perceive of. But there is so much talk. Well, we're going from 3D to 5D. We're going into fourth density. We're going into the fifth dimension. Yes, Earth is approaching a shift of that nature, but that's not all there is. You have to understand that your vastness of yourself goes beyond the idea of a single dimension. It's not to say that that dimension is not beautiful in its own way, but there's so much more to it than what you're talking about. What I am attempting to tell you is that you have to look at yourself as the infinite. You have to let go of all of these tendencies, of all of these conflicts, of all of these barrages of trouble, problems, regrets, influences that you hold on to. And once you're able to do that, you see everything in the grand scheme of things. You see the entire rainbow. You don't just see certain color bands. You see the big picture because you realize that you are the infinite. And that all comes through the nature of surrender. Surrendering to the soul. As you surrender to the soul, as you make peace with yourself from within, as you radiate that peace without, when you leave this physical body, everything's available to you. There's no doors in the way. It's just full access. It's full access to the entire mind. It's full access beyond the mind. It's access to these higher states of the soul that transcend the mind. As I've said, the mind itself is the lowest part of the soul. It's the most outer layer. When you go beyond that and you move into love, into life, into the soul, into the spirit force, you are looking at bliss that cannot be described. But the bliss is perfection. And that's who you are. Doesn't have a title, doesn't have an image, doesn't have an object, doesn't have a picture, doesn't have a word, doesn't have a feeling, doesn't have an emotion. It just is. And that's the peace. So looking at these worlds of the disembodied is really just to look at the true world as it is. This physical body that you carry is only operable through this particular type of dimension. You can't take it to any other type of dimension. It's not possible. It's not compatible. This is why when you go to sleep at night, you're in your transient body. You're in the astral. Some of you may even go up into the causal. Some of you may go beyond the mind where you're in complete deep sleep. And you have no recollection of anything, but you know you had a really great sleep. Well, that is what it feels like to go beyond the mind. You have no recollection of it, but you know it is blissful. You know it is peaceful. You know it is perfection. Well, that's it. So these worlds of the disembodied is all about you. Whether you want to explore different earths, whether you want to go through spiritual communities, whether you want to go into higher dimensions, where you want to go into these heavenly worlds that are so incredibly beautiful visually, and through all of the other senses, that's up to you. It's just about being able to shrink your ignorance. But when you are truly liberated, when you are truly free, you can explore all of these places, and it doesn't even really matter to you. You're just visiting. You're just witnessing You're just observing everything within all of the worlds of the disembodied. Well, is it true that I can speak to someone who has left this earth plane, who has left this physical body? Are they still able to make contact with me because I love them and I miss them? Absolutely. You're able to talk to them all the time, but you have to learn to live in their vibration. You have to operate, you have to have a relationship to their vibration. If you don't, then you simply stay here physically with what you know. And this is the trouble that many people have. A loved one has passed on. They attend a funeral. They are very sad. They are mourning. They are filled with regret. They are filled with loneliness because they believe that they are never going to be able to talk to that person ever, ever, ever again. Well, they would be incorrect. That is nothing more than a manipulation that has been taking place upon this entire world, all based upon erroneous teachings, quite commonly found through religion. That after you're dead, well, that's it. Your body's finished, your body is now in the earth, the worms are now feeding upon it, and that's the end of you. All there is now is complete and total nothingness. No, that is the greatest lie that you have been told. You always exist because you are. You go beyond existence because you simply are. You are the isness. There is no beginning, there is no end, there is no forward or backward, left or right, up or down. There's just you. There's just infinite. There is just the eternal. And that is the exact same thing to everyone whom you love, even to people you haven't even met. Everyone is infinite. All of life is infinite. Love is infinite. The soul is infinite. The force of spirit is infinite. There's no beginning, there's no end. And that is the nature of everyone whom you know, as well as who you do not know. So in order for you to connect with them, because you've established this relationship through life with them, because you've shared your lives together, you know them, that's all you need. Recollect with the relationship that you have of that person. Know that they are here, but you have to realize that as they don't have a body, how you are communicating is through here. It's through the heart. The heart is exactly the medium, the bridge, the platform that you're connecting with. Because through the heart exists the domain, the abode of the spirit. And that's what you're talking to. You're talking to spirit. Because that is now who and what they are now returning to. They are remembering themselves. Because you are always spirit. It's not something that you gain. It's not something that you lose. You are spirit. You are the infinite. You are consciousness. You are awareness. It's not something that is being attained. It's not something that has been lost. It's not something that's being gained. It's you. This body is not you. This mind is not you. But your spirit is you. And that's what you're talking to through the domain of the heart. So how does that work? How do I talk through the heart? Keep silent. Go into calmness. Relax yourself. Go into the low idle state. Follow the breath, heart rate variability. Move yourself into that lower idle, into that subtle state of being, and just think of your loved one. Feel them with you. Feel their presence. This is presence with presence. Because you are that loved one. That loved one is you. It is a reflection of you. Everyone that exists inside you. Every single person you have met. Every single person you haven't met. All exists within you. It's a tapestry. It's all you. It's just looking at a multifaceted crystal of awareness, helping you to see everything that you are through everyone that you know. Therefore, as you have this tapestry of the heart, you're feeling them. You're sensing their presence. You call them in. you talk to them. You can even go into dream time and speak to them through strong intention. You can go into meditation and use a sankalpa, the intention of the soul, the intention of the heart, to connect with them, and it can happen. It's a two-way street. You are not commanding them. You are not dominating them. It's a cooperation. It's like a phone call. When you place a phone call, the other person has to answer. Well, it's the same thing with this. When you place out an intention to talk, the one who you wish to talk to has to pick up the line and answer you. It's a two-way street. You never lose anybody. You're only under that impression because you're constantly tuned into the physical of this world too much. Let it go. Be with presence. Be aware. Be with your beingness and feel the presence of your loved one within you, because it's all an inner conversation. As you do that, they can tell you about the disembodied world that they exist in. They can tell you all about it. Once you now form a brand new established relationship through spirit, you're talking to their astral form. You're talking to their heart. You're talking to everything that they are in essence. That's the relationship. And they will explore with you and tell you all about the disembodied world to which they live in, and how you yourself are still here to fulfill everything that you're here to fulfill. You're all here to really experience happiness. That's why you're all here. Happiness continues, even past this life. So for those of you who have had loved ones, who have now left the earth plane, who have left their bodies behind because it is no longer operable, speak to them through the heart and get to know their domain. Get to know where they are now. Let them educate you as the loved one who is with you here in this moment, and let the relationship between you and them prosper.